12th, 2012 meeting, Gulf County Commission now in session. The Honorable Bill Williams presiding.
David, will you lead us in prayer, please?
Let's pray. Most gracious Heavenly Father, we thank you for the privilege to be in this great country. And Father, we just ask your blessings on this board, that you may grant them leadership and wisdom, Father, as they lead us and guide us through these difficult times. Father, we do humbly lift up our men and women who are serving our country, protecting our freedoms, that you may be with them and their families. We just ask your guidance to this meeting. In Jesus' name, amen.
Follow me in the pledge, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Thank you for everybody coming out. We've made a rare daytime appearance to accommodate the clerk who's being sworn in today as, or this evening as president of the Clerks Association. So again, to Becky, congratulations. Let's go right into the consent agenda.
So moved, Mr. Chair.
Got a motion, Mr. Yeager. Second, Commissioner McLemore. Any opposition? Motion carries 5-0. Public hearing, Mr. Attorney.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. In front of each of you on your dais, there is a public notice and a current draft of the sign ordinance as presented. If I can, I'd like to first review the notice that was provided in accordance with Florida statute. We have published this in our local circulation, the Star newspaper. It is run on the 31st of May and June 7th. It is for the public notice and the first of two public hearings today with regards to our amendment and replacement of our current sign ordinance 88-3. I'm going to read it by title, and then if I can, Mr. Chairman, I'll turn it over to you for public comment in our public hearing. Notices an ordinance of Gulf County, Florida, whereby amending Gulf County sign ordinance number 88-3, titled an ordinance regulating outdoor advertising signs, providing for the prohibition of said signs on county right-of-ways, providing for an effective date, and herein replacing it by the adoption of what we have in front of you today, which is the Gulf County sign ordinance, and providing for the severability and providing an effective date. Mr. Chairman, if I can, just so I can go back over Commissioner Smiley, and who is the liaison for the sign ordinance, and also working with Commissioner Yeager and several of the community groups. Over the course of the last year, we've had several public meetings. Your subcommittees met on numerous occasions dating back to last August, September, and November. Most recently, we've met on April 15th. Again, we met on the 22nd. We met on April 1st. We met again on the 15th. We met again on the 22nd. And what we did is we went back and forth between your subcommittee and your PDRB, and we've had two appearances before your Planning and Development Review Board now with this proposed ordinance. They've sent it back to your subcommittee. The Commissioner and myself have met and worked with that subcommittee, and what we now have, per your authorization, we've advertised the current ordinance as it's presented. It's the product of over actually numerous years of various public input as well as your staff recommendations. As you all look through that, and we have it on the website and the ordinance in front of you, the first 10 or 11 pages are whereas clauses. And as the public starts to read this, it's been the recommendation of the county staff and the administrator that what we want is obviously laws in the county that are easily interpreted and enforced by our county staff and easy for our community to use. And I say that because it's a 40-page document, but the first 11 pages are actually whereas clauses. And the reason is obviously this is a constitutionally protected freedom of speech issue. It's been contested throughout the country, large communities, small communities, state level, federal level, and as small as local municipalities and cities. The whereas clauses in there are there to obviously to add color to the picture of why you're accepting this proposed ordinance. It offers additional support if it is ever contested. The whereas clauses give the reasons why this commission and this community are adopting these new sign ordinances. More than simply putting the laws on the books, it gives you your intent, your commission's intent of why you're accepting this. So when if and when you all ultimately adopt this ordinance, it's for the additional pages 12 through 33, if you will. So I want you as a commission to know that the document will be adopted. Also, I've met with Mr. Richardson. They have included this in their current discussions on the planning board. It's going to be incorporated into your land development regulations amendments that are ongoing, that the PDRB is working on with David as a planner. So this will not only obviously be an ordinance on your books, but it'll be hopefully incorporated into your LDRs. So it'll be there for, going forward for your future generations in terms of signage. That's the history of where we're at. There's several issues. The most discussed and active issues throughout that ordinance: size of signs, height of signs, setback of signs, signs along state right-of-ways, lighting of signs, construction of signs, engineered signs over a certain size. All those issues have come before us as a subcommittee. You've had an engineer on that subcommittee. You've had a lot of active participation. You've had input from your Realtors Association. It is a good ordinance, and it's had a lot of public input. Today is our first of 2 public hearings. Ultimately, we'll come back on the 26th. We'll introduce it to you again, entertain public comment again, and at that time, if there's any additional amendments, we'll offer it up for adoption by the 5 of you. So, Mr. Chairman, I'll turn it over to you at this time for the
Any
public
comment from the public? Hearing none, we'll go to the board. Comments?
Mr. Chair, I think it's very important that, and Jeremy mentioned it, but this ordinance is on the website. Anybody needs a copy and they don't have ability to get it from the website, if they'll just contact us, we'll get them a copy. It's very important that people know and understand what's in this ordinance, because at the end of the day, it's going to be a living document, I believe, and this is something that we've needed for a number of years. I appreciate the committee's hard work on that, appreciate Commissioner Smiley's work on that. We finally got to the point that we can get to the adoption process at our next board meeting, so I appreciate their work.
I agree. Any other comments? Entertain a motion? All we need to do is that we've heard it go through. Do you want a motion that we, at this point, are moving forward with the process, or are you fine with it as it is?
Well, if I can, I'd like to suggest an amendment or two if I can right now. Most importantly, right now, if you look, we have definitions, and there's been a lot of discussion as to where we define things. What I'd like to recommend is that if nothing else today, that we amend the definition of the sign, the actual sign, to mirror the State Department of Transportation's definition of a sign. Under the definitions, we currently have a sign defined as
What page?
It's on page 14, Commissioner. A sign means any device, fixture, placard, or structure which uses color, form, graphics, illumination, architectural design, style with text or writing to advertise, attract attention, announce the purpose or identify the purpose of any person or entity, or to communicate information of any kind. The term sign includes sign structure. There's some additional language in the DOT's definition that I'd like to come back and incorporate and add to that, so it's clearly defined, and going forward, whenever there's a contest or a variance application before the county, that we encompass every conceivable definition. So if I can, I'd like to amend the definition of sign to add an additional sentence to that at our next meeting. And that's simply it. If there's no other public comment or questions of the commission, I'll bring this back before the commission on the 26th and ask for your adoption.
You need that in the form of a motion, Jeremy, to wordsmith?
If I can.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Motion, Mr. McDaniel.
Second.
Second, Commissioner Smiley. Any opposition? Motion carries 5-0.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. There's nothing further.
Okay, we'll go to county business, clerk's office. Lynn?
Mr. Chairman, during recent board meetings, we've had several issues been requests to be put onto the website, as Commissioner Yeager mentioned a little while ago, just for the public's information. We do have the sign ordinance. Countywide voting issues are being placed on there, as well as board meetings are now on the front page. So for the public's information, if you go under county news, you can get any of those ordinances or most of the pertinent information that the board's been requesting on the website. At the top tab, it's a county news tab, and that's where you can find most of the information. And all board meetings will now be posted, so they can watch those pretty much the next day after a board meeting when we get those tapes.
Right.
That's all I have.
Okay, Houston? Brent?
No, sir.
Okay.
I received an email that we are eligible again for the small county grant. I request that the chairman be allowed to sign that grant when I have a chance to complete it. And
So moved,
any pertinent papers that go with it.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Motion, Mr. Yeager.
Second, Mr. Chairman.
Second, Commissioner McDaniels. Any opposition? Motion carries 5-0.
That's it. Thank you.
Marshall?
Sir, I have just one thing, Mr. Chairman, and I apologize for not getting the consent agenda, but I was running a little bit behind. I just like to request approval to purchase a software license from Geocode Incorporated. These licenses will help us in our damage assessment and our public health and human service needs assessment post-disaster. It is a sole source, had the attorney review that, and it will be purchased through grant funds. So I just need permission to purchase. Purchase price is $9,000, and there'll be a $2,000 per year maintenance fee.
So moved. Proceed, Mr. Chair.
Motion, Commissioner Yeager.
Second.
Second, Commissioner Smiley. Any opposition?
Sole source.
Sole source.
You're comfortable with that?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I've reviewed that software with Marshall. I just ask, per your 2005 policy, if you accept his recommendation and emphasis, obviously it is sole source, to include that in your motion, that the five of you identify that as such. Also include that in your vote.
Okay.
You
You're
include
comfortable with
that
the
in.
motion, second, okay. Any opposition? Motion carries 5-0.
Okay, thank you.
David?
Just a couple of informational items. Working with the Water Management District, they now are pretty much under contract with FEMA to do the map modernization for your flood program. Right now, we're under a study for Rivering and Surge. Probably about 2013, there's going to be another map update. We'll be incorporating Surge into the coastal areas and Rivering flooding into the in certain areas. There are some changes coming. I noticed on a preliminary map that specifically in St. Joe Beach alone, Americus Avenue right now, that's in an X zone. Actually, that may actually be going into a flood zone. So I've asked them to challenge and look at that very carefully, and there's a few others. I just want to alert the board, to these changes. And also, we're going on the comprehensive plan. If there's any updates or changes the board needs to make, please get up with me, or any projects or something, or any department heads, because I need to get them so we can start the hearing process. Also, we'll be coming up for a CRS recert on for discounts on NFIP. And also, there's a new manual coming out in 2012. It won't probably take effect until October, but there's some changes coming to the CRS program that could affect us. So these are some things on the horizon for the board to consider. That's all, Mr. Chairman.
I think you have a question.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. David, are you working with the federal government on the flood zones in the north end of the county any at all?
It's all inclusive, Mr. McMore. It's they're doing the whole county.
That, gentlemen, is a joke, that flood zone. All it's doing is costing the people thousands and thousands of extra dollars. I mean, that is a joke. So, David, I would ask you to look at that. I mean, I'm 60 years old. I live up on the north end of the county. I'm on a sand ridge where gopher turtles crawl at, and they're making them build them houses 4 foot above the sand. And when you do that, it's a flood zone. When you have that home financed, then you have to automatically pay flood insurance. It's costing them people thousands of dollars for a stupid issue.
Pretty much, Mr. Commissioner, is with the LiDAR data that's now available, which are basing all this off, which is gives you the ground elevation, and they're using a surge model and a rivering model. It's pretty much going to dictate what it is and what it's not, and it's going to be hard to challenge. But
Well, we need to
we're going to be
challenge it.
tracking it.
We do need to challenge that, fellas. That's the most stupidest thing that we waste money on.
There's several areas that's coming out of the flood zone. There's some going in, although unfortunately some of the areas that's coming out I noticed is in areas that just don't make no sense, but that's the way the models predict it. But I will be working with them and keeping you abreast of what's going on.
Thank you. Okay.
I think it is important to make sure that the data is correct. In the past, we've had many times these flood maps have been changed, and it's just incorrect data. And so I think what Mr. McLemore is referring to is let's make sure their data is correct. I mean, they've changed some data, and Don and I have worked on it before, like on Cape Sandblast, where these folks haven't even been on Cape Sandblast before. They haven't done any on-the-ground surveying or anything else. So I think that we just need to make sure the data is correct.
Well, not only,
I kindly remind them I'm getting too old for this, so.
Commissioner Smiley?
That's very true too, because when we was up at the FEMA in Washington D.C., I noticed that we was talking to people who never seen the Cape, but they was making determination of what was going to go on the Cape, but they never seen the Cape. So I understand where you're coming from with that, Mr. McLemore.
Well, the LiDAR, and taking this from a scientific and more of an analytical approach, is the only thing that we have. This LiDAR technology and the ability that you're talking about where it is, I mean, that's the number one tool. The problem is not only where Mr. McLemore is talking about where someone's ability to build a house, but we've got people retroactively going through, and it hurts them. I mean, now they're having to do things when they were permitted, et cetera, in an X zone. And now we've changed the status so it's an impact to them as well as in a future sale. So, we've had this issue. They seem to continue to mess with this every year, and it causes a lot of folks some hardship. So I do think you're doing the right thing. Let's fight for these folks. We've seen from Cobra and everything else that if we don't scrap when they're changing lines that we have long-term effects. So thank you for bringing that up. Mr. Attorney?
Mr. Chairman, first issue I have is with regards to our boat landing lease. If you all recall, last few months we worked on the Odina boat ramp. Commissioner Yeager had received permission from the commission to move forward and start working on the Willis boat landing. I've reached out to St. Joe representatives, spoke with Mr. Stouffer, just corresponded with them most recently, and what we've come up with is if it's acceptable to you all, instead of redoing the entire lease program that took us several months to accomplish, what we'd like to try to do is add an addendum to our current boat ramp lease for Odina, add the other boat ramp to that in its essential terms, and then add the maps that we have on our old Odina. Once we do have that, we'll have a memorandum of understanding and addendum. We won't record the entire lease, but we will provide that MOU as well as that addendum to you all to have you ratify it, hopefully in the next month or so. I think it should expedite the process. So if I can ask for a vote to approve to do that.
So moved, Mr. Chair. That's
Motion, Commissioner Yeager, second, Commissioner McLemore. Any opposition? Motion carries 5-0.
Mr. Chairman, in front of each of you, there's a letter from my office with an attached stipulation of settlement and final order from the Department of Health. Most recently, we had the ability to reach a settlement on an administrative complaint. That's in front of you all. I ask that you all ratify the decision and authorize us to move forward with issuing that processing fee. It was a successful outcome. I thank Houston and Mr. Butler for their assistance with getting that resolved, as well as several of the county department heads, including Ms. Player.
Okay. Need a motion, gentlemen?
Motion, Mr. Chairman.
Got a motion, Mr. McDaniels?
I second that motion.
Second, Commissioner Smiley. Any opposition? Motion carries 5-0.
Mr. Chairman, on our animal control ordinance, this last week, we had an opportunity to meet with your county liaison, Commissioner McLemore. We met on the 7th in the afternoon here in the County Commission building for our first subcommittee meeting. We had Roland join us as well as the several representatives from the Humane Society. We distributed the proposed animal control language. At that time, we gave that to our animal control officer as well as the subcommittee and the commissioner. We'll be scheduled probably to meet again towards the end of the month. Right now, we're asking just for some feedback. We'll notice that meeting on the courthouse again when we meet again to discuss that ordinance, but I want to let you know that we're tracking on that. Hopefully, we'll have something in July or early August. Another ordinance committee to report on is the homeless shelter ordinance. We originally met after you added to our subcommittee on May 16th. We met most recently again last Wednesday in the afternoon here in the Commission's conference room on the 6th. We're scheduled, and we've noticed again, to meet again this Thursday at 2 o'clock in the County Commission conference room. We have a ordinance. We've had active participation from both the public, the county staff, as well as the commission, which I thank you for your input. We have it scheduled to go before the Planning and Review Board this Monday morning, or this coming Monday at 8:45. After our next subcommittee meeting, we'll take that final ordinance, present it to the Planning Board. If it's their recommendation to introduce it to you all, we'll have it scheduled for a first hearing on June 26th, and then ultimate adoption on July 10th. Today, we have the chair lady here with us today, who's been guiding our subcommittee, and we'll be meeting this Thursday. In terms of advertising and scheduling, we're not going to meet again. That would prohibit us from properly advertising that first introduction at our June 26th meeting. So I'd ask you all for authorization to go ahead and advertise it by title, and so we have our first hearing on the 26th.
So moved to advertise, Mr.
Motion,
Chair.
Commissioner Yeager.
Second.
Second, Commissioner Smiley. Any opposition? Motion carries 5-0.
Mr. Chairman, in review of our personnel policies, safety rules, and regulations that we have adopted for the county staff that we've applied over the years, what we've, in working with Mr. Butler, what we ask is if you would add to your current policies that in terms of volunteers for the county, that we would extend our current personnel policies, that they apply in their entirety to our county staff, and when it comes in terms of volunteers, in terms of their conduct and personnel policies and safety regulations. It's not clearly defined, but I'd ask the commission if they would to extend your personnel policies as they currently exist to give us the ability to apply your comprehensive personnel policies to any volunteers that volunteer on behalf of the county.
Who's going to follow up that? Is that Brett's going to be working with them? I mean, who's, and your purpose in that, but who's going to take that initiative and have the follow-up, et cetera, and have those volunteers sign?
Yeah, and I'll let Mr. Butler comment, but if you have and mostly it is our volunteer fire departments, but if we have, as Brad is our director of that department, as you have all your county department heads, it will come from the department head as a recommendation to your county administrator. So in terms of him announcing it, getting it out, we may have a memorandum to each of the departments to announce the policy, provide them copies of that. Brad would then obviously be the oversight, and then it would come back to Mr. Butler for ultimate determinations to show that it's in compliance with your personnel policies.
Okay.
I don't know if you wanted to add anything to that.
Wishes of the board?
Yeah, I think it's a needed thing. So moved, Mr. Chair.
Motion, Commissioner Yeager.
Second, Mr. Chairman.
Second, Commissioner McDaniels. Any opposition? Motion carries 5-0.
I'm pleased to report we have another successful SHIP participant. I have a satisfaction of mortgage presented on behalf of a participant. Brett has provided them a payoff, and pending, obviously, their payoff of that SHIP, I'd ask for your approval to have the county execute the satisfaction of mortgage. If you all recall, a couple months ago, you guys, the commission gave the administrator the ability to review distressed sales on SHIP participants. And I would ask that if you all would, it's an administrative review. If someone comes in and wants to pay off a SHIP loan, the county deputy county administrator provides them a payoff letter, then it comes to the county administrator for signature. We've presented them to you historically. It's an administrative function. We'll provide them the number and get the payoff and we'll record it. Right now, your policy provides the administrator the ability to look at distressed sales when someone goes into foreclosure. They look at that. They have the ability to provide a satisfaction. And I'd ask that if you guys, if the commission could add to their current policy to include just simply executing these satisfactions, we won't present them to you in the future. We'll simply have it as an administrative function.
So moved.
Motion, Commissioner McLemore.
Second.
Second, Commissioner Smiley. Any opposition? Motion carries 5-0.
Mr. Chairman, at our last meeting, Mr. Richardson had indicated Mr. McKnight, our chairman of our PDRB, had announced his resignation from the board. Since that time, we have our advisory council applications online, and they're on there all the time. But I would just ask the chairman and the commission, I have several copies of the applications for appointments to county advisory boards. I'll leave them here after the commission meeting today. In order for the commission to have applications presented to you, hopefully at our next meeting for the 26th, anybody in the community that's interested, I'll leave the applications here. They can download them online and submit those to the county, and I would say prior to the 25th, so that you all have them on the 26th for your review and consideration for your appointment to that vacancy on the PDRB. Right. The next item I have is with regards to a recent TDC meeting. We had a productive TDC meeting most recently. The issue of contracts came up. The new TDC council has formed two subcommittees. One is a budget subcommittee. The second is a marketing subcommittee. I think we're joined by our new executive director, as well as Ms. Kopinski's here today, and I think they're going to offer additional comment and introductions today. I simply wanted to address the one issue with regards to contracts. The subcommittees met in May, made recommendations as a subcommittee, but had not met formally as a TDC council. At the TDC council meeting, they had made a unanimous recommendation to term out their marketing contracts, 3 memorandums of understanding with Statecraft that they had hired last fall. That recommendation came to you all, I believe, in last September or October. The commission voted to approve them. You now have a recommendation for the events that have not been put on for the termination of those agreements per the agreement that you have with the contractor. That recommendation's come from the council. I offer it to you all. With your approval and your instructions, I'll then work with, obviously, the contract and the proper termination of it.
So moved for the recommendation of the TDC Council.
We have a motion, Commissioner Yeager.
I second that motion.
Second, Commissioner Smiley. Any question, opposition? I have to abstain. Motion carries 4 with 1 abstention.
Okay. Mr. Chairman, that's all I have at this time.
Mr. Butler?
Mr. Chairman, I think my most important part today is to introduce you to your new TDC director. We had months of work on trying to find a director. The Workforce Board did an excellent job of taking applications. They received about 30 applications. They vetted, Kim Bodine vetted 4 of those. The committee is made up of several people, including the TDC chairman. We go through and we interview everybody, those 4, and we each rank them, and we all had the same ranking. And luckily for us, the #1 ranking accepted our offer. So if Miss Jennifer Jenkins could come up, she's going to make her introduction today, but I'm delighted that we have someone on board working TDC, and she's going to be great.
Jennifer, welcome.
Good morning, commissioners and ladies and gentlemen. I'm Jennifer Jenkins. I arrived Sunday night with my family, and we're unpacking and moving in. We're very excited to be here. We lived in Walton County, and I've worked in Walton County years ago, and we've always adored this area, and I'm just very excited to be part of it. I look forward to working with everybody, my council members, and the community particularly in the next 30 days, to immerse myself as much as possible, understand the visitors, understand the bed tax collectors, review your past and current marketing programs so we can make some recommendations and really dive in, and just work together so we can move forward and continue to promote the area. I've been in travel and tourism marketing for most of my career, either on the agency side or on the client side, so I think now I have the best of both worlds, and I love being on the client side. And I'm open for discussion, and I'll be in the office tomorrow. And anybody who has any questions, I'd be more than happy to answer, or come visit me and let me know what you're thinking.
That's great. Glad you're here.
It's good to have you.
Glad to have you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Mr. Chairman, just for clarification, back on May 8th, the board talked about restore funding to assist the FAC in their request on the Restore Act funding. Just to clear it up, if the board will agree for the clerk to be able to cut the check to FAC not to exceed $2,500 after we get the invoice from FAC.
Yeah, we had already voted on that, but I think to clarify it, just, you need another motion?
It's not clear in the minutes.
Okay. Can you, one of you lead a motion, please?
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Got a motion, Mr. McLemore.
Second, Mr. Chairman.
Second, Mr. McDaniels. Any opposition? Motion carries 5-0. And if you could, just get Chris to send you an invoice.
Just one comment. Mr. McElmoy had a comment about flood zones. He didn't put a lot of emphasis on stupid part, but he should have.
Maybe I can do a little better.
It's really unbelievable. You go out to Overstreet, there's not a river, there's not a lake, there's not a Gulf of Mexico or an ocean, and they make you build 4 foot above ground and charge you $1,000 a year for flood insurance. They're hungry for money. They're doing it again. But every 2 or 3 years, they remap the county. They can't get it right. Every 3 years, they'll be back here in another 3 years remapping the county again. Has to cost millions of dollars to remap the county. And they can never get it right, and it's costing us an arm and leg. And it's got to be handled at the federal level. If we're going to do anything, I would suggest we send something to our congressman, to Sutherland, and try to work that way. If enough people complain, it does not make sense. The most you can ever get in some areas of Overstreet is rainwater, and it'll never rain 4 feet deep in Overstreet. So it's not like living right on the Gulf of Mexico or right on the edge of a river. So I agree. Everything he says is correct. He just didn't put enough emphasis on stupid.
And can I cut you off, Mr. Butler? Let's go ahead and I'll make a motion, gentlemen. We send a letter to Mr. Sutherland concerning this issue, see if he can help us up there.
Got a motion, Mr. McLemore?
Second.
Second, Commissioner Yeager. And the only other comment I would say, and I know we've got our federal lobbying team working on the COBRA, but I think we can have some discussion without it, see what their ideas too. And I think Commissioner Yeager, you're working most closely with them. So I think sending a letter to Sutherland, but also saying from their stand, what would be some good strategies to attack this, because it is really hurting our residents. Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any opposition? Motion carries 5-0.
My last item. Thrilled that Ms. Jenkins is here. Also, I would hope the board would really recognize what Tawana has done over the last couple of months. It has leveled that organization now, and it's smoothed it out, and she's working weekends and late nights. And my last email I got from her last night was 10:56. And so there's a lot of work that Tawana has done on TDC to get it smooth. And it'd be great if the board could recognize that.
I would not only recognize that, but also the work of Jeremy and you, Mr. Butler. And again, regardless of the focus from the newspaper, the issue here is that this county implemented policies, procedures, protocols, and things that have, I think, righted this ship. And I think that's what Commissioner McDaniels has talked about. And let's pulling it out of the mud. I'm very ecstatic that she's here. I think from the clerk's office to the TDC board members that we now have this on a very solid footing. And Jeremy, I know that there was countless hours in your policies and your procedures, and then a Tawan with the accounting side and making sure that's contractual. So to all of you that were involved, I sincerely thank you, because I think now that TDC is a partner with the county, and I think that we're getting away from this micromanagement. We feel comfortable with the leadership that she's going to bring and with the protocols that have been implemented. So Tawan, I'll see Tawan. Where's Tawan? Tawan, thank you very much. And Jeremy, thank you to you. Mr. Butler, same to you.
That's all I have.
Okay, Mr. McLemore, I'm sorry, Sheriff. Oh, yeah, we'll bring that up.
I can emphasize stupid because I live on the south side of the White City Bridge and I have to have flood insurance. If it floods there, none of us will be here. I need your permission to let Mr. Williams sign some documents on the Edwin Burrs grant. It's a letter from the city and I have to get together and write. The city hasn't got a title to the grant yet. You've already authorized the grant. It's going to be a 60-40 split of about $35,000, and our money goes to pay Chris Buchanan's salary to do the DARE program in the schools and the community outreach programs that we have. So just need your permission to let you sign it this week sometime when we get the letters drafted.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Motion, Mr. McLemore.
Second.
Second, Commissioner Smiley. Any opposition? Motion carries 5-0.
Also, along those lines, Chris Buchanan and Pam Martin will be putting a program on domestic violence at the Weewa Courthouse Thursday at 6 o'clock Weewa time. Public's invited to come listen to Ms. Pam and Chris talk about a growing problem everywhere with the economy and stuff the way it is, and there'll be some programs available to people that might need some help.
Very good.
All right, and you want me to address that now or later?
You can now.
Okay.
Sheriff.
Commissioner McDaniel asked me to look into where we were with the TDC stuff with the Florida Department of Law Enforcement. They have met, and I'm not speaking for the state attorney's office, but they have met with the state attorney's office and found pretty much what Mr. Roberson found. I won't say incompetency, but stupid, not following contracts, nothing in writing, but nothing illegal. Everything that was spent where it would be somewhere else from another company. Not the Kerrigans didn't overcharge anybody for anything, and nobody received any money. Like other counties, we didn't buy houses, we didn't buy boats, we didn't buy motorcycles or things. So everything was just a lack of oversight and a lack of having the contracts in line, and there's no criminal charges that they have found. They've been asked to look into one more thing post Mr. Roberson, and once that should be within the next month or so. They're busy with the Mexico Beach thing, and that should take care of the whole investigation.
Very good.
Okay.
Thanks, sir.
Thanks, Sheriff.
Mr. McLemore?
Just a couple of questions to Mr. Butler. Mr. Butler, would you touch bases, please, on the Sawers Creek boat landing permit? See where we at with that, and also the Bird Parker Drive permit, please. That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Smell?
Just elaborate on that what the sheriff was speaking on with the TDC. The only problem that I've seen myself and around the TDC all the time, my business being up there located near it, is just undermanned. It's being undermanned. I mean, you got one person over there, two people over there trying to run the whole organization, and That was my biggest thing. When you got a directors out there doing the things that directors shouldn't be doing, something gonna go lacking. And I just want to elaborate on that. That's what I've seen the biggest problem, just being undermanned.
Anything else? Mr. Yeager?
I'll elaborate on all that a little bit too. I've seen staff struggle through this, and I've seen a lot of folks struggle through this over the past 6 months. And to the staff's accommodation, they've done very well in a very difficult time. And I appreciate what all the staff has done, and very glad that we have Jennifer here. I think over the years, this board is always going to have issues that we need to address. I think as we address them, it's good to follow all the policies and procedures. This board asked for an audit. They got the audit and got the recommendations. We went through those recommendations, and I think that's the responsibilities of the board. So I appreciate everybody's work in that, because it was a very difficult, stressful time for everyone, and I'm glad we're through with that process. So, other than that, I actually went over last week before last, and met with U.S. Fish and Wildlife. The attorney went, and Mr. Butler went with me. We had great conversation. It was a follow-up meeting from our Washington, D.C. conversation, where Washington, D.C. Said they would defer on the FEMA issue to their field office, their local experts. So we followed up with that. We provided them with a lot of other information, and had a great meeting. We're very encouraged by some of the comments that were made, especially with the new information that we had provided. And I want to make one comment here, because I see some actually inaccurate comments about, renourishing the beach or FEMA issues or whatever. They don't want special treatment out there. What we want in Gulf County is just the treatment that everyone else gets. If a hurricane hits Mexico Beach, or it hits Bay County, or if it hits St. George Island, FEMA steps in and takes care of that, which they should. The federal tax dollars to do that. All the Cape Sandblast Indian Pass area wants the same opportunity, and they were incorrectly put in COBRA. COBRA obviously hadn't worked, and all the information that we provided was there again with staff working overtime to provide. We've argued our case. And I think that we're going to have some success out of that by just providing information that needed to be provided. So I'm excited about that, and we had a good meeting, and I think we should know in the next weeks, not months, of how that FEMA issue is going to turn out. So that was a positive meeting. But other than that, Mr. Chairman, that's all I had.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just a quick follow-up. On the 30th, 31st, I was in Columbus, Georgia, meeting with ACF, Apalachicola, Chattahoochee, and Flint River System, and on a water issue. We're in a drought. I was up there, and I walked from Columbus, Georgia, over to Phoenix City, Alabama, across the Chattahoochee River. I never got my feet wet. I was just stepping on rocks there. They don't have any water, so how can we twist their arm to give us water? There will be a report coming before the board, Mr. David McLean, and giving full details of what we have, what we're looking at, and where we're trying to go. But that will be in the near future, Mr. Chairman, there. And I have one other thing. The city of Weewillhitchka, the county, our public works, Mr. Danford works with the city of Weewillhitchka. We do occasionally some patchwork for them on their streets inside the city. And I was meeting the other day, and it goes back to this money issue. How can we cut a dime here and a dime there? And they have an issue there. If we would, and I want to bring it before the board, and the two commissioners mentioned this and the city manager, if possibly we could give them maybe 3-6 yards of milled asphalt. They would take their work crews and do a lot of the repairs there and save our crews from having to travel up and do it or have to delay till they're in that area. So all I'm asking is if Mr. Danford could, in the approval of the board, if we could donate or give to the city of Weewillhitchka 3-6 yards or whatever.
Do we have
They
any?
would do it. If you,
have that much, but if we do, we'll scrape it up.
2 yards, 3 yards, something that they can do some of this patchwork, take some off of us.
Mr. McDaniel. Doesn't that stuff have to be heated before you actually do the patch, Joe?
Not the milled asphalt.
We're talking milled asphalt.
Oh, mill.
Yeah.
Cold mix does.
Oh, okay. All right. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
Apologize.
milled asphalt.
Board have any issue with that?
I don't.
Not at all.
Not at all.
All
Go
right,
ahead.
Mr. Danford, if they make the request, will you work with them on that, please? Thank you. Mr. Chairman, that's all.
Okay, just have a couple of items. One, bring everyone up to date on the Restore Act. We had a meeting yesterday in Destin with an economic summit. Basically, the only major update at this point is the Congress, as I've mentioned before, the Restore Act is tied to the transportation bill, and we're hoping that it pushes through. There are a lot of cards being played right now with Keystone and other issues that may prohibit this bill from passing. But again, just to recap what this means and what we've all been fighting for is that 80% of the Water Pollution Act penalties that will come from the Deepwater Horizon would go to the 5 affected states. And under current state law, 80% of those penalties would be coming to the 8 affected counties. That is a significant play, to put us in a position, and not only change Gulf County, but the region as a whole. What we're fighting for now is working with the governor's office. Our state is the only state where the county, and I applaud not only this board, but the Association of Counties, that had congressional members put that language in there that gives that money directly back to the counties. It does not go to the governor, regardless of your feelings on stimulus. But what we saw is the money that was wasted or sent down south from the stimulus dollars, this money as penalties would come directly into us. And it has a lot more latitude that can be used for economic development, environmental, connections, working with our tourism. There's medical components in, so I'll get our new TDC director up to speed as quickly as possible. I don't know if she's working in Walton. Don is certainly very aware of all of this stuff, but this could literally mean hundreds of millions of dollars in the projects that we work with our EDCs and such. So we're hammering our congressional members and Senate members, but if you'd like to, again, look on the website with the Association of Counties and contact them, because if it passes, there's basically 3 options that can happen. One, that they can obviously kill the transportation bill. They can get a continuing resolution that is not hopefully going to be, or they can pass it. But if it doesn't get passed within this month, and nothing's going to happen before the election, but this is a very, very critical piece for us as we go through, so please be aware of it. For those that weren't in the audience earlier, we met at 8. Some of us got here at 8:10, but we had a budget. We had a budget meeting. And I applaud the direction of, again, the committee that's pushing with this, our constitutional officer, everyone involved. There was a proposed $222,000 cut this morning. It's been my objective as chair to bring in a flatline millage where we are. We're still about $334,000 short of that goal. Mr. Butler is scheduling some meetings as soon as possible so that we can continue that push to flatline that. The only other thing that I think came up that I think I'd like to address, Mr. McLemore was talking about the frustrations with the DRA or the CRA that they have under state law. I think as you ask for that mediation within the budget, I think it'd be very important that we have an outline of all of their expenditures. So I would get with the clerk because, I think it's important with the money that they pull throughout this entire county that we see the dollars that are being spent within that CRA timeframe from vendors, et cetera. So I'll follow up with the clerk. But when we talk about several hundred thousands of dollars in budget, and most people don't realize, we all have different feelings on the DRA, if it's a good thing or a bad thing, but most people don't realize what its intent was, how it's being spent, et cetera. But I think we have a responsibility to our citizens to show how that county money is being put into that area and why as we move forward. So I'll follow up with that. Anything else from the board? We'll go to the public. Anyone from the public want to speak?
Mr. Chairman, while you're waiting on the public, the signage issue in Windmark that we neglected to bring up earlier, I just want to let you know that per your instructions the last meeting, we have a meeting set up with the Windmark and St. Joe reps. We've reached out to Mr. Caldwell, and he'll be meeting with us regarding the signs that you had inquired about.
Yeah, and just for the public staff again, this is something that she'll have to get up to speed with the DRI. you know, they've committed in the DRI certain things, you know, access points, public parking, parks, et cetera, et cetera. And we are not at odds. There won't be a competition. The issue with the homeowners association, where they're trying to go, and there's valid points on both sides, but this negotiation is very critical, that we protect both the homeowner, but particularly the citizens who were promised access to those docks, those access points. And so what we're trying to do is head that off before it becomes more conflict. But I appreciate you following up on that.
Mr. Richardson had made a point also, with regards to PDRB applications that come in, I just wanted to announce to the public, unless you had any objection, the ones that have been previously submitted by interested citizens of the community, those will be taken into consideration that David and the staff have on file. So the applications are on the bar up front, and they can grab those before they leave, anybody in the audience. But the ones that have been previously submitted, those will be taken into consideration as well.
Okay. Tuan, you had something?
First of all, I want to welcome Jennifer. I'm so happy to see her. And I'm looking forward to working with her tomorrow. First of all, I want to talk to you a minute about some grants. We have received a landscape grant to landscape the approaches of the White City Bridge, and I need permission to go out for bids on that grant.
So moved, Mr. Chair.
Motion, Commissioner Yeager.
Second.
Second, Commissioner Smiley. Any opposition? Motion carries 5-0.
Discussion, please. May I?
Gotta
I'm
be
sorry.
quick, Mr. McLemore.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Ms. Twan, have you received the money for the grant now? You received?
We have the grant agreement that is fully executed, and we've received the notice to proceed. We don't get a check for the money. All of our grants are reimbursement.
Okay, see if you can push that landing project for me. I need it going.
I have continuously been working on that. I got an email that the new application cycle has started, and I contacted them because I don't know if they're going to fund Land's Landing in this new cycle or if they're going to fund it, and I'm supposed to apply for another project, and I've left messages and I have sent emails and I get no response.
We've been awarded the grant, gentlemen, but they haven't sent the dollars over a year ago. So what good is awarding the grant if you're not going to send the dough with it?
So I don't know. I'm trying to find out if I need to resubmit Land's Landing, if they're going to just fund it, or if that one's going to be funded, and I need to apply for another one.
All right.
So I am still working on that.
Sorry about it, Mr. Chairman.
All right. Anything else?
I have an invoice from GAC on our CR30A project that's a SCOP grant in the amount of $118,852.57. I'm requesting permission to pay.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Motion, Mr. McLemore.
Second.
Second, Commissioner Yeager. Any opposition? Motion carries 5-0.
As most of you know, we received a housing grant. The county agreed to match it with some SHIP funding, and right now we're currently taking pre-applications from residents who want to apply for this funding for housing rehabilitation. It has to be, it's your low to moderate income individuals, families. They have to be outside the city limits in the unincorporated areas. The applications can be picked up at several locations. We're actually advertising it. There's also a link on the website, and the administrator's office has copies of the applications right now as well, since I'm kind of back and forth between buildings. But just so you can let your people know that if somebody in the low income range needs assistance, that we are taking the pre-applications now. Okay, now TDC. First, the TDC board at their last meeting discussed the beach raking contract and agreed to work on specs once Jennifer gets here and to advertise for a new contractor to do the beach raking. And so I would like permission that once the specifications are worked out and everything, that we can advertise for bids for that.
So moved, Mr. Chair, but in discussion, I want to.
Got a motion, Mr.
Second for
Yeager, second
discussion.
for discussion.
In discussion, when you get those specs, when the committee or whoever's going to put those specs together, I want to review those specs to make sure everything's in there that we need to have in there. We've had an awful lot of June grass over the past, which we do each year, but this year has been exceptional. And so I want to make sure we have things in there to where they understand what we want.
Absolutely, and I'm getting, I know you are.
We have actually had several calls. I spoke with someone yesterday that was concerned as well, because when the grass was raked, it was put in the vicinity of the homes. And so they're kind of wanting them, once the grass is raked, to kind of put it over in the dunes away from the houses because of the flies and, people staying in the houses and walking out of their house, and there's a big pile of grass. There are several things
Come break my yard, Jim.
There's several things that we'll incorporate into it, like a regular schedule, and obviously there will be, a as needed amount as well. But we just need permission to advertise them once they're finally approved by the TDC and Mr. Butler and everybody, and the attorney.
Anything else? Anything else?
Is that?
I want to talk about the fireworks.
Carry the motion.
I'm sorry. Got the motion a second. Any opposition? Motion carries 5-0.
And the last thing I have is the memorandum that I had passed out to you earlier. The city of Port St. Joe agreed at their last meeting not to participate in the fireworks this year. We've had many, many, many calls at the TDC. Extreme citizen disappointment in the possibility that we may not have fireworks this year. And so we actually had a New Year's Eve fireworks celebration, and I contacted a couple of the companies, or the two companies that bid on that. One of them is booked at this late date. The other one can do it. Obviously, they would do what they can do with the $10,000, $5,000 from the county, $5,000 from TDC, but this would mean the county being responsible for the contract with them and implementation of the fireworks presentation. And if that is the route the county, the board would like me to take, then I would need permission to do that on an emergency basis.
Well, and I want to make a couple comments. This is systemic of an ongoing issue. Here we are at this late date, and some private citizens picked this up last time, and went out and got private donors, had the county and the TDC put monies in and saved the fireworks last time. And I think it's very easy. They want to annex Windmark, but they don't want to do any beach raking. They don't want to do any responsibility in the areas that they've annexed. They want to come through Highland View and dictate who can be down there, but they don't want to pay for anything in the process. So this is very frustrating to me, and it's not that this is going to per se bring residents to Gulf County, but the expectation of the citizen that is here, who's made the decision to bring their family here. You see them. you guys have seen them lined up from Mexico Beach through Port St. Joe. It is incredible. So I'm disappointed in their decision-making. The only argument I have is that I think that, the TDC was given a $90,000 settlement of BP dollars. I think we should just take that from that line item instead of coming out and work with them. The second part of it is I think we should look at an alternative site, like Beacon Hill, like Salinas. Can it be done? I think that this is a bluff, that they're just saying let them pay for it. That's fine. We'll pay for it, but we'll move the venue. So my thoughts are that, and I'll listen to the board.
Well, let me say this, and I don't disagree with the thing in the world that you said, Mr. Chair, but I do know that people do come to our community, and they visit our community every summer. We're a tourist area, and they do have expectations of fireworks and those kinds of things. But there's even more to it than that. You got the Downtown Merchants Association that's putting on events based on people that are coming down to see the fireworks shot off in Port St. Joe. And so I think there's It's unfortunate, to say the least, that the city didn't want to participate in dollars. They are going to participate in a number of things, and you know, whether it's you know, fire protection, or whether it's law enforcement, and whether it's the cleanup. They are participating in a way. But we tried to fix this issue last time, because we did. I was one of the ones that went out to the public and gathered monies in the private sector to put this on last time. And the agreement was, my understanding, and nothing was ever written in stone, but the agreement was that the county would provide $5,000, the TDC would provide $5,000, and the city of Port St. Joe would provide $5,000. And, you know, that didn't happen. It's unfortunate it didn't happen, but I don't think that the citizens of Gulf County should be punished for let's not putting the event on. And I think it's important that the event go on. I think it's important for the Downtown Merchants Association to have their event down there. It's a great opportunity for people that are coming to our community to see what we have here in Port St. Joe and in South Gulf County. So with that, I would at least appreciate the consideration there. I'm not opposed to going back to the CDC unless looking at those $90,000 to let the TDC fund it all, but I would prefer that we continue with what we budgeted for.
Mr. Chairman, may I
Yes, sir.
comment on that, please? I commend you for the words that you gave here. But this time of the year of celebration, and I don't know their reasoning now. The little city of Weewillitchka there, they put on a fireworks, and the county does not contribute any to them. To my knowledge, they haven't come before the board asking for money, and likewise they get money in other ways, so it's a trade-off deal. But this community needs this, and I wish the city of Port St. Joe would reconsider, but if they don't, I think we need to just go ahead and move forward on this for the people. This is a time of celebration, the 4th of July, and people look forward to this. I don't understand the city's motive behind this, but
I agree with you. I'm not a tourist expert, but I can tell you that there is such that, what I said earlier about a community expectation, that it won't affect people from being here that time, but I bet you it will affect them the next time.
Absolutely.
And when they decide to bring their family here, that they didn't do anything. It's more of an appreciation, and like you say, it's a celebration of the independence. I don't quite understand the program, but anyway, we've bannered this. What's the wishes of the board?
Well, I want to have a few comments.
Yes, sir.
on
Yes,
this,
sir.
too.
I apologize.
My district is the city. And I'm just sitting back looking at a whole bunch of things that the city is refusing to participate in that they used to participate in. Well, the reasoning for it is money. The money just is not there. So we're going to have to make some type of adjustment to this. Now, the county is sitting here making all type of cuts, taking away from the maintenance department. We asking the sheriff to cut back. We asking everybody to cut back. But I'm sitting right back here looking at the city. Now, we got duplications of services going on in our city. Now, Avalon taxes pay for police departments. The peoples of the city of Port St. Joe pay for 2 police departments. We help with the county. We help with the city. The peoples of the city of Port St. Joe pay for 2 building departments. This is duplications of services. And if we take these things right here and take a closer look at them, put the numbers on the table. I'm not just saying throw them out the door right now, but put the numbers on the table. Let's look at it. 4 weeks ago, right before school was out, I was riding in my van, and it was a older gentleman, about 90 years old. He had put a sofa on the side of the road in front of his home. And I noticed that sofa being on the side of this road from taking my daughter to school. It sat there for about 2 weeks. Well, I come by there, and my daughter being 6 years old, she asked me when I stopped at the stop sign, she said, "Daddy, what's wrong?" I was looking at this gentleman, 90 years old, trying to put a sofa on the back of his truck. 90 years old, trying to put a sofa on the back of his truck because the city refused to sit down and make decisions to better themselves. So I backed up, I helped him put the sofa on the back of his truck. But these are the things that's going on within our city. It's time for the city. Don't get me wrong, I love the fireworks. But if you're gonna ask me to put my part in, I want you to put your part in.
Absolutely.
I don't believe in just taking a whole, I don't mind helping nobody, but I'm not gonna do the whole job. This is something been going on from God knows how long. Last year, we worked on this situation, and we was hoping that we had it figured out. But come to find out, we don't have it figured out. I'm asking the peoples of the city of Port St. Joe to look at your commissioners and let them know, hey, it's time to get up and do something. Now, all these duplications of services that's going on, I mean, they can go out and talk about removing a tower, putting in a tower, different things. We got to look out for the peoples of St. Joe. That's my district. I'm a county commissioner, but I represent the city. And I think that the city need to pay their part towards this fireworks. They can come up with money for everything else. They want to work on the Centennial building. Last time I went inside the Centennial building, it was doing great. It's time for the city to do their part. And I'm speaking up about this because I sit back and like I said, $1 million in Avalon taxes that we take up for the city police department. We're looking at least $500,000 to $750,000 saved right off the bat. And I truly feel deep in my heart that the sheriff, Mr. Nugent, can cover the city of Port St. Joe. Anytime I see trouble going on in my neighborhood, I see them green and whites all over the neighborhood. So I have no problem with that. This is something that they need to take close look at. Back to you.
Well, my suggestion, I hold true. I mean, I think it's a scenario we put it back, that if we're going to pay the $10,000 in whatever format, then we change that venue. But we also leave it to what he just said. If the city wants to come to the table with 50% of it, we'll keep it in the downtown area. I think the downtown area is where it should be done. But the bottom line is that if they're not going to pay for that, the Gulf County taxpayers are having to do that, and I realize the city is too. This is not a city taxpayer problem. This is a city leadership problem, you know, that they are just kicking that to us all the time. We get our rates increased with water, sewer. All the time it's on this end, and then they basically cry victim and say, well, we don't ever get anything from the county. That's just not true. We're all in a budget crisis, and he is exactly right. We should be doing this together. We could save hundreds of thousands of dollars working together and doing this duplication and looking at all those issues. So this is piddly-andly to me. So I'd entertain a motion if that's what you support to move forward onto that format.
Well, what format is that? Now, let's get back to...
We pay for the $10,000 through, my suggestion is we pay to the $10,000 with a BP settlement with TDC monies, not out of ad valorem side, you know, in that settlement. Second part is we move that venue to working with this group, either to Beacon Hill or Salinas area out at the Cape, whichever one's more appropriate for them to be able to shoot the fireworks off of. If the city chooses to change their mind and pay half that bill, then we'll move it back in within the city confines. That'd be my suggestion.
Again, we're getting late in the game, guys, and we're mixing an awful lot of issues on this one specific issue, and I understand every one of them. I don't disagree with anything you're saying, but I think it's important to note that, as Mr. Smiley says, the city of Port St. Joe is within the county, and they have taxpayers also that are paying. And so I think at the end of the day, when you take the Downtown Merchants Association, all the events that they're going to try to put on during that time, and the exposure that it'll give to the businesses in the downtown area, I think the appropriate place is where we've traditionally had them over the years, and I think that's what the public comes to expect.
But the downtown merchants should hold their city officials accountable. You know,
I don't disagree with that.
If you're not going to back up the businesses that are there and help them, then that's their issue. And so I look at it from an issue. They didn't discuss this with Mr. Butler in a contact call. It was, we're not going to pay it. You know, let the county pay for it. And I think it's just an inappropriate process, you know, and they are expecting this board to do exactly what you're talking about, pay for it and keep it there, and they've saved $10,000.
Well,
I disagree.
Here's what I'd ask for at least this board to do. I'd ask for you to approve the expenditure and let us secure the vendor, on emergency basis, and let Mr. Butler and the chair or whomever work with the city to see if we can't re-engage the city, and at the meeting on the 26th, make the final decision on where the venue is.
I don't think we got time to do that.
The gentleman from Pyro Shows will actually be here Sunday. I'm supposed to meet with him Sunday afternoon. They're flying in to meet with the Apalachicola and the city of Mexico Beach. And so he was wanting to meet with me between Appalachian and Mexico Beach. I hadn't sprung that one on Jennifer yet because I know she's been kind of busy trying to move.
I would ask the board to make a motion that because of that time frame, it's an emergency bid scenario. We go through and that the city basically has the remainder of this week to make that call when that man's here Sunday. If they don't want to do it, then we move to the venue that's most appropriate. And again, people say it's my district. I'm not saying I moved to Beacon Hill because of my district. I'm saying it's the most logistically, I think, open area. It's got the parking, the safety, people can get to the beach, et cetera. So I think it makes the most sense. And then I think we talked to the downtown merchants. The chamber is wanting to carve them off and not deal with them and represent them. These merchants need to hold their elected officials responsible, But anyway, I'll entertain a motion.
The attorney had something?
Mr. Chairman, if I can, just to recommend, I know Tawan has made the recommendation for an emergency. If I can, just under your county policy versus an emergency, which does apply to some of your expenditures, more under number 8, which is an exceptional purchase. It's unique in its technical aspects. The timing of the deliverables and the product that you're ordering is the fireworks. I think it's more appropriate that if you approve it, you include in your motion that you make it an exceptional purchase under number 8 under your bid policy versus an emergency such as a inclement weather or something of that nature.
That's right.
The other item with regards to the numbers, the 23 days, in your motion, obviously citing the location. We've dealt with these contracts before, working with the TDC on your New Year's Eve Celebrate Twice event. We've had those contracts with some of these vendors in the past. There are considerable amount of effort for Tawan. I know with Brett, with Jennifer. In the next two and a half weeks, there's going to be considerable effort to get the contract, the insurance, the location, the logistics all down. 23 days. Obviously, for the effort for the counties is a considerable undertaking. It also negates any negotiations in terms of the 23-day window as well. So that $10,000, what I understand from Pyro Shows, is a hard number. There's no room for any kind of cost savings or any competitive, obviously, under that exceptional purchase. So I'd ask you just to amend your motion to reflect it's number 8 under your county policy.
Well, I'm gonna stay with a motion that we proceed, that has traditionally been done there, that the Downtown Merchants Association is having an event trying to bring people with the, so I'll put that in the form of a motion.
All right, we got a motion.
I second that with discussion with Mr. Yeager. I respect that with the merchants, because that would be a profitable day for the merchants.
Absolutely.
But I'm asking that the merchants get on their city, hold their city officials reliable for this kind of.
I think it's going to be well documented that there's some dissension about that decision. So with Jeremy's direction, I'll proceed that motion. And
All right, we have a
you'll vote the
motion.
second.
Mr. Yeager, we have a second.
Location.
Commissioner Smiley.
Location downtown.
Question.
General.
Mill property.
Okay.
Any opposition?
Yes.
I oppose.
I can't see that, gentlemen. I think we need to call the hands on this.
I agree.
Well, we just had a motion, we just had a vote, I guess.
No, we haven't.
I'm going
We're
through
in
the motion,
discussion.
Mr. Yeager, I'm asking, and he says no.
We're
I said
in
no.
discussion.
Say no.
Okay, the motion fails 3-2. Now, would one of you like to make a motion of going the other direction?
Yeah, I don't have a problem with it. Mr. Williams, either they pay or we move it to Beacon Hill.
All right, with all the time constraints, Tawan, that you've talked about with them here, and all the things that we need to do, we just need to move so we can get it and advertise, et cetera. And Jennifer, this will become a great deal to you. But we got a motion to pay the $10,000 and move the venue if St. Joe does not agree by the end of the week to join.
Absolutely.
And the venue will
That's
be Beacon Hill Park?
Correct.
That'll be the motion.
We're in discussion. Has anybody
No,
seconded?
we haven't seconded yet.
Ain't got a second.
Y'all want a second?
Second.
Got a second, Mr. McDaniels?
All right, discussion. So you're going to have the Mexico Beach Fire Departments, Mexico Beach fireworks right there, and you're going to have St. Joe's, or you're going to have Gulf Counties right there. So they're going to be shooting off at the same time.
I think it'll be awesome. You could see both from the park.
At one time. I think so too, Mr. Williams. I like that.
All right, we got a motion and a second. How do you vote, Mr. Yeager?
I vote no. But I see I won't be on the short end of this.
All right. Any other opposition? Motion carries 4-1.
I like that.
That's all I have. Y'all have a great day.
Well, that was kind of cumbersome. We had our own set of fireworks.
Hopefully the city will get on board with us.
No? I don't think you didn't.
You got to go quick.
You started out with Mr. Yeager, and you stopped with Mr. Yeager, but you didn't come to nobody else and ask us how we voted.
I learned that from Mr. McLemore. I'm running this show. All right, anyone from the public? Yes, sir.
Hopefully the city will come on board with us.
I hope so.
Well, I hope they come on board too.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners.
I need you to have your name and address for the record, please,
My
sir.
name is Albert Milton. I live in Marianna, Florida. Actually, fifth generation Marianna, Florida, and I own a property and casualty insurance agency. We can insure we insure governments just like you. That's not what I'm here for. We've had, you and I have had a conversation about the parking signs in front of my beach house, St. Joe Beach.
Yes, sir.
Those signs were put there in 2011. Prior to that, we've had a disgruntled neighbor that has been complaining about parking in front of our beach house. Yesterday, I showed up with full expectation of taking pictures, just like a property and casualty insurance agent does, show you exactly the field of view of all the traffic and everything. But to my surprise, when I got to Pine Street, which is the street this person lives on, and I picked my camera up to look back, I had parked my truck where it had always been parked to try to obscure view on the highway. My neighbor's truck was parked lawfully in his driveway. It totally hid my truck. From my truck to obscure view from that stop sign, I would have to almost park it in the middle of Highway 98. So my truck's obscure vision is not a moot, it's a moot point. I've been told by you that if I cause someone to have an accident, I'd be liable. I'm not worried about me increasing hazard because I can't. To increase hazard, you have to encroach on the highway. My parking in our yard is not the issue. You can't settle the issue because you've got a disgruntled neighbor that has singled us out and has been harassing us. The sheriff says they really don't want to come there, but they have to because these signs are there. Mr. Jerry Perdue at the Florida Department of Transportation got very upset when I explained to him that because these signs are there, it makes my family, friends, and their children park on the other side of Highway 98 and constantly walk across that busy highway to my house. I don't know that there's a remedy for the neighbor, but the remedy might be, and it's very embarrassing to have 20 people at your house for breakfast, and a sheriff deputy show up at your house only to tell you that you're lawfully parked. It's not a problem parking. We're doing everything in the world we can to stay off that roadway. I hung a 28-foot boat in this marina down here at $300 a month to get it out of my yard to have more parking. What I want you to do, if you will, please, issue a request, Florida Department of Transportation, to Mr. Jerry Perdue. He is the District Transportation Operations Engineer in Chipley. He said the request can only come from your county commission or the sheriff's department to move those signs off that right-of-way. He's fearful of his liability. Because something happens, the liability flows. I've been in the business 36 years. I know how it works. I'm not fearful of us. You know, we're only here in Gulf County. We love this county. We've been coming here since I was 16. I'm 59. We've owned that house since 1990. We've never had these issues. We're not used to these issues. It's something unbeknownst to us. We don't know what's going on. We just know that it's going on.
Well, and I mentioned to you when you contacted me on the phone, you had talked about where there'd been a lot of engagement with this board, et cetera, on this issue, and I told you that hasn't happened.
Right.
And so the request, as I looked at it, became a DOT issue when they put it out there. So I have no problem sending it out there because this is a bigger, and I don't mean to by any means minimize the scenario you're talking about. it's a bigger issue all along, both his area and my area of the beach, if we are obscuring, et cetera, that we do need to make sure, but there needs to be some type of kind of litmus test to that. You know, what is it that we're doing? The sheriff checks off on it, they check off on it, and it's complicated because it is state right-of-way. But if those signs go up on a state right-of-way, then you know, he's compelled to comply. But I think we need to look at some kind of standard, have DOT and do it. I have no problem sending a letter.
And I don't either.
No.
So moved to send the letter, Mr. Chairman.
All right, we got a motion.
Yeah.
Second.
We got a motion, Mr. McLemore, second, Commissioner Smiley. Any opposition? Motion carries 5-0. We'll send it and follow back up to you.
Thank you so much.
Thank
Thank
you.
you, Mr.
Anyone else from the public? We like Jackson County too, by the way. Any other comments? Motion to adjourn?
Thank you, Bill.
All right.
Mr. Chairman.